many positives I can get out of this game.
Personal foul. Clipping.
The game is over.
What in the ham fat is going on with you guys?
Double doink.
No! Got to be careful with Johnny Pecker.
Tell those damn guys from KFAN I don't want to hear any more.
Hey, have a seat for a second.
Hold on to your butt.
L.
But in the end, we had an opportunity to move and give G a swing at it to win a game where we lost the turnover battle 3-0. Didn't get it done. We'll go back to work. It's hard in this league to go on the road and win, and it's even harder when you don't take care of the football like you're supposed to.
Dobbs, shotgun for the first time this game. Now T.J. Hawkinson goes under center, and he tosses it to Dobbs, who runs around the left side, encountered behind the line of scrimmage, and he dropped the ball, and the Broncos have it. The opportunistic Broncos turned over the Vikings on a trick play, and the fumble recovery goes to Jaquan McMillan, second-year corner from East Carolina. The Broncos have turned over the Minnesota Vikings.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away.
We've learned this lesson before.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
As an offense, it's ball security.
Dobbs, who's under center, handoff Alexander Madison. He dropped it. Flag on the play. It was recovered by Josie Jewell.
Are you serious?
Madison fumbled, and Jewell fell on it at the 35-yard line.
Ball comes out of it as a big play. There's those three plays of figuring out how we can be better, how I can be better.
Goes back to pass. Hit as he throws. No! He threw it right to a Bronco after it was deflected. And the interception goes the way of Jaquan McMillan. And another Vikings turnover is keeping this Broncos team in the game.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
You can't give them 3 extra opportunities.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Oh, yeah. Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
That's something that we can be better at on offense.
So that would be an L for today.
Russell throwing it to the end zone. Caught. Cortland Sutton touchdown to Mekhi Blackman. Back left to the end zone. 15-yard touchdown for Cortland Sutton. Excellent work by Russell Wilson because the pocket collapsed on him. Found Sutton. Portland now has 8 touchdowns this year. And the Broncos have taken a 21-20 lead with a minute 3 to go. Dobbs facing a 4-man rush on 4th and 25. Protected okay. Now he's going to fire one center of the field. Incomplete. The Denver Broncos have ended the Minnesota Vikings winning streak at 5. Extended their own to 4. And will beat the Vikings 21-20 on a night the Minnesota Vikings to a certain extent handed the game to the Denver Broncos by going -3 in the take give.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
You know, you give them 3 points on the first drive of the game, right? You're driving, you fumble, they go down and score, they go down and kick another field goal, and then I give them a short field late in the fourth quarter, man. Like, that's what the game came down to.
Wow, wasn't that fun?
Hey, good morning. It's 9 to noon on this Monday morning, and I'm Paul Allen at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, your Minnesota Vikings practice facility in Eagan. Eric Nordquist produces, and he is the master mixer of the Monday morning montage with some bad news this morning. Yours truly, once again, at TCOPC. TCOPC, take chances or pursue calamity. TCOPC, the consternation of Purple Covenant. And that's what we're all feeling off a loss to the Denver Broncos last evening. And not many frustrate me like that one last night. Hated it, hated it, hated it, hated it, hated it. Several reasons why. Here's one. You just heard it at the closing call from Empower Field at Mile High Stadium. -3 in the take give. And it's the situation mostly was terrific on certain levels, including like the parts I was listening to Fan Line while sitting on a bus outside of a stadium waiting to go to an airport or looking at social media, it's like Alexander Madison. I mean, Alexander had some fantastic moments last evening, as the plan would go. He went to grinding on a bad run defense, but then he drops the ball. So it's like there were things that were done last night to a certain extent where you're like, okay, let's just get out of this thing alive, get through the Bears, get to the bye so these coaches and players can get some rest. And then, like, Madison drops the ball. So, in the estimation of some, that one situation right there will offset so many good things that he did last evening in a team game where hated it. They have 19 fumbles and 14 fumbles lost. I mean, Madison's gaffe led to a field goal. Ty Chandler whiffed on a linebacker. Dobbs got hit, and there was an interception. And there was a field goal off that clipper. The one where Kareem Jackson, 22. Kareem Jackson, fresh off the 2-game suspension for illegal hits, obliterates Dobbs' head, helmet to helmet hard. You lose the ball on the uncalled L, and Flores D's like, this ain't happening. So you ain't getting into the end zone. And there's Lutz. I mean, Lutz, double doink this, double doink that. And he hits 5 field goals, but didn't get into the end zone off some of these L's. But nevertheless, those 9 points and -3 in the take give, holy cow. I mean, yes, there is 3 hours of radio-related minutia from that football game, if that's something into which you want to dive. But the -3 in the turnover differential, I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And you got you got Will Lutz is like, double doink this ass. That this ain't going to happen this evening in the Mile Get High City. With -3 in the turnover differential over like the last 20, 25-ish years, -3 in the take give leads you to victory 10% of the time. That's in games where teams have gone -3 in the turnover differential over like the last 25 years or 23 years, something like the 2000. They win 10% of the time, but trip on this, man. When you go -3 in the take give, you lose by an average of 13 points. So those are scenarios. That's a situation that is tried and true and time tested. I mean, and if you're going to go -3 in the take give, with all due respect, if you're going to go -3, can we at least make it like a 5-2? I mean, here, you get it 5 times, but we get it twice. So maybe on 1 or 2 of our takes, we have like scoops and scores or something like that. So the whole -3 trick absolutely ruined the night for yours truly. And I hated that facets of last evening from Denver, Colorado, a 1-point loss to the Denver Broncos, who have won 4 in a row. And good morning, I'm Dan Patrick. It felt like early season losses to like Tampa Bay and the LA Chargers, but specifically the LA Chargers. Now, in the Buccaneers and the LA Chargers games, I never thought the Minnesota Vikings were going to lose those games at any yard, hash mark, or portion of the field scenario. I just never thought they were going to lose the game. So, and that was kind of that was kind of the case last night. And it's not like the Caleb Evans trying to catch it and it goes into the arms of Palmer for the Chargers, or Hawkinson's going to bring one into the goal stripe, be a very tough catch, but he's making all those catches for the most part these days and can't bring it in. It's like the supernatural of the gridiron gospel. It's not exactly like that. But look, I mean, we're -3 in the take give. All right. I mean, that was so September. Holy cow. Cortland Sutton, fine player. Cortland Sutton with a one-hander. All right. So he's got to make that one-hander, man. And he did. Metellus drops a pick and we're losing fumbles. I mean, that's so like Billy and Johnny and Christy and Susie and Tamika and Antoine, they're back in school. It's September. It's a September Earth, Wind, and Fire song. It's a September to remember, with players making one-handed catches and purple and gold players dropping interceptions in the end zone and losing fumbles. But all is good, and here's why. The producer of the 9 to Noon radio show, Eric Nordquist, said this on Fan Line last evening, and it was like a verbal 50 milligram gummy from afar. Quote the host of Vikings Fan Line: "Shake this one off, keep the loss in context, and move on to Chicago." Well said, because well said, man. I mean, because if you even go -2 in that sucker, in the take-give, I just know we beat that football team.
Yeah.
So what, what led you to that statement? It was a beautiful statement. I'm sitting on a bus and I'm tired and I'm starting to handwrite a radio show and I'm listening to Fan Line and Ron Johnson, the co-host, is making some good points about Dobbs and bootlegs and things like that. And I'm really enjoying it despite the fat L. And then my guy cuts loose with, "Shake this one off, keep the loss in context, move on to Chicago." Very, very poised and calculated, the con.
Well, I'm texting with you while you were on the bus, and I'm sitting here just on the other side of the glass in the studio doing Fan Line, and it's late and it's truncated and just got to get out and get to live programming on Monday morning. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so pissed off about this loss. And I was so mad last night because in what we do, we spend all week thinking about how to beat teams, how the team can win the game. And certainly we can see a lot of things clearly. But how much more clearly and simple can you spend a week talking about a game than just don't turn the freaking ball over? How about that? Just don't give the team that has 9 takeaways in their last 2 games, and you can, wow, hey, we beat Russell Wilson, we beat Patrick Mahomes, we had lost 16 in a row. That's cool. He was also struggling with the flu, and you snagged the ball 5 times from his team. We beat Josh Allen and the Bills. Well, that's great. Josh Allen threw the ball basically at the ground instead of handing it off to James Cook. You took advantage of other people's mistakes. That's awesome. Yeah. Your team's not explosive. All I've heard is Russell Wilson is back. He's not back. He hasn't thrown for 200 yards, it feels like, in 6 or 7 weeks. What they do is they've capitalized on those turnovers, and if we could just keep them out of the end zone, and we didn't give the ball to them a bunch of times, we were going to win the game. So I was so pissed last night just about how everything transpired. And the in-context part for me is kind of going the not too high, not too low. And this is fence sitting, and I get it. But in the same way that over the last 2 games, we got Lunchbox with the Pastronaut logo on it. They're going to come out. Pat Micheletti's put $50,000 into them, and if you see some,
we got lunchboxes.
Well, when he wins those 2 games, we got nicknames.
Oh yeah.
Forget about Kirk. Move on. Pat Micheletti with his trunk open in a school parking lot, handing out T-shirts.
Yeah, you have there were fans at Empower last night wearing space-worn Buzz Aldrins.
Correct, and I was watching the pregame. I saw a guy with an astronaut helmet on. And I thought that
Which one?
I thought that was done with COVID, but I guess not. So with how things were supposed to go and the simplicity of winning a freaking football game.
Yeah, I know.
And to watch everything go the wrong way, I was super mad at it. So with that said, the high-low for me comes down to the in-context part of it, is that what we did see in moments last night is we saw a guy that has been a backup quarterback for the majority of his career. And so the way that we would get, in some ways, too high on Dobbs through 2 victories, I don't think we can get too low given how things went last night. He did put some receivers in bad spots. He was throwing behind guys. He wasn't perfect. Even that touchdown he threw to Josh Oliver, PA, I'm sure if you saw it on the replay, you noticed that play was clearly designed. If he just throws it sooner to Madison, that's a score, and it's not nearly as dramatic as him having to miss that tackle and find Oliver from the boundary. So
I didn't see that.
So there are imperfections to that game. There are growing pains associated. There are myriad mistakes that are taking place within the frame of the game, but that magic, we cling to it. We love it. And so we get high when this team wins. You know, we're ready to get rid of Kirk when this team wins. Don't need him. Move on. We can get Dobbs for 4 years at $12 million a pop, and we're all set. But then when we lose, it's season over. This is absolutely preposterous. This team just won 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
And they still, even though they didn't close on, you know, the way that you had framed it up in that very building at TCO a month or so ago about the possibility of this team going on an 8-game streak. Yeah. Last night's a kick in the pants, and last night's us kicking ourselves in the pants in a lot of ways. But the ability to come back now next Monday night against a team that has no business winning games right now, that being the Chicago Bears, a team right now that is definitely more future-focused than now-focused, prime time in our building, we still have the opportunity to handle that game. Then you chill, and I mean, who needs to buy more than T.J. Hawkinson right now? My God, with those ribs, and he's jumping.
I wrote that down.
Oh, holy bleep, dude!
No, you're right, and that's overall. That's a situation that bears conversation, and there's nothing we can do about it because a week 13 bye, and I started saying it, more so to you off the radio than on the radio a couple of weeks ago, but it hit me like, holy cow, after that Bears game. That's going to be 15 games, including preseason games, before you hit your bye. And that's basically an entire National Football League season. And, okay, to whom much is given, much is expected. I understand that. And, they're not doing some things that just all that same cliched conversation that we hear all the time. But nevertheless, with what you just said, specifically with Hawkinson during the shake off the loss, keep it in context, move on to Chicago Covenant. I mean, get the sucker to the bye, man. I mean, they are in desperate need of the off week. Yeah. And it's I can't see how after 11 regular season games and 13 preseason games, the mental grind of those 14 isn't taxing physically and mentally. I just can't see how that is not the case in an emotional, violent, physical game, specifically for players on defense who have played like 750. I mean, the primary players defensively have played like 750 plays, and that's off the organized team activities, the training camp, the preseason, during which most of them don't play. And here's one thing, that I saw last night a little bit, and I kind of saw it the week before. Tripping right now. Who would be? New Orleans. In the New Orleans game, Flores' gang does not miss tackles. I mean, that's been one of the beautiful things from really the end of the Philly game through where we are now, when the situation became more cohesive and solidified, and the plan was more second nature for everybody outside of the primary players within that defense. Flores' group doesn't miss tackles, but they've been missing some of late. So they were missing some last evening, not just wide, but just missing some tackles. And that just from afar is like an indicator to me that you got some people that are mentally and physically tired. Yeah. Caleb Evans was badly missed last night, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like off that question you asked a month ago. It's a Caleb Evans. He's the best corner on this team.
You might be.
Well, and I mean, you got 3 forced fumbles. You got a guy who does not miss tackles. And he was missed last night. You just kind of felt that. And, with when you started chatting about that nice line you had last night, a nice sentence, shake off the loss, keep it in context, move on to Chicago, 3 sentences actually. It was kind of a fatherly like loss. It's like with right after Labor Day, you have the birth of a season. So then you have to expedite the life of the child and make it from September at the birth of a season to whatever the end of this season would be. And the fatherly loss would be like this, in that the child is making mistakes while learning how to navigate personally and professionally.
Yeah.
September, October. Well, now you get to November and you're approaching Thanksgiving, and there are things that were transpiring in this part of this life, this metaphorical life, that would begin in September and end when the season ends, where it's a fatherly loss in that symbolic dad is like, now cut that out. Now you just stop that. We talked about that when you were younger. Stop dropping the ball. Stop doing this. Stop doing that. that's what I think pissed me off so much about the way things transpired last night, is because multiple times we were just like, that's so September, man. I mean, aren't we done with that? Aren't we done handing something over to an adversary where you are better than them without Hicks? You're better than them without Evans. You're better than them without Cousins and or Hall or Akers or whomever. You're just better than this outfit unless you just hand it over to them like, kitty, kitty, kitty. Now quit that. Just cut that out, Sonny. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, it's like your kid gets your car and drives it for the first time. They have their license. They're so excited. They hit a parked car in a Target parking lot and then lie to you and say they didn't know about it.
Right.
It's just, if you're honest about it, we
be
win.
Honest.
If you do the basics, we win. And that's where I look back on it last night. And, you know, Texie, if you were listening to Fan Line, I mean, everyone's just absolutely mauling Madison right now for that fumble. And it was soul crushing in the moment.
I understand. It sucked.
It can happen.
Well, Madison had his best game and best team game of the year.
Yeah, and that's so a couple of times he ran for more at Charlotte if you want to play that, but okay. I would say he was probably running the most aggressive that I've seen all year, and he was making some cuts and some of the judgments I've made on him, which that's kind of what I like to do as a Rube is, you know, where's the vision? You know, if the right hole is here, he ain't picking it. If patience is required, he's hitting it too hard. That sort of thing. It's been disjointed at times with him, but it wasn't last night. And so then it's we got to get rid of Madison and we got to give Chandler 30 carries. Now he had more pop. The fake punt and the 30 plus yards he got rushing there kind of helps with his average, but in the end, more spark maybe and maybe certainly than Madison. Well, as you mentioned in the open, he whiffs on that linebacker who forces the interception in that moment. So it's like between those two guys, it's like we have one complete back, but both of them are not perfect in the opposite areas. And so there are potentially issues. You know, Madison hasn't had fumbleitis in his career. He had a lost fumble at Philly and now a lost one last night. Yeah. And so of all the things to judge Madison on, fumbles haven't been the issue. Yeah. Incomplete passes and some other things, certainly. But it's just that was kind of the vibe of Fan Line is how are we going to turn the ball over as many times? Now we got to get rid of Dobbs. Dean Lowry's out. You're worried about that. Are they going to pursue Akeem Hicks? I mean, it's the sad part and the frustrating part about a win streak coming to an end is that vibe completely tilts on its own head again. And this is a team where, like, to your fatherly analogy, the idea of you just do the basics, you win this game, and you couldn't do it. It's, I mean, mind-boggling at the least.
In the -3 and the take give, I mean, how about the last, 23 to 25 years? You go -3 in a National Football League game, you win 10% of the time. I mean, and I think it's 9 point something, so it's less than 10. And what was more telling to me is those teams that went -3 in the turnover differential over a quarter century, they lose games by an average of 13 points a game. We're up here losing by a point. And I'm being serious here, man. It's like, if you're going to go -3, then make it a 5-2. Okay, if it's going to be a bordello, excuse me, if it's going to be a complete cluster bleep, then make it a cluster, but at least take it twice. So maybe with the 2 takes, there's a scoop and score, and it offsets some of this -3, man, where they lose by an average of 13 points, and that all played into last evening, man, where, like Nordo said on Fan Line, going to shake this thing off, keep the loss in context, and move on to Chicago. And around the corner, we have Vikes Bites, part of the TimberTech What's on Deck set list. And during the course of the radio show, more Vikings-related conversation from Nordo and I at about 10 o'clock. After that, NFL du Nord, Bursich, the analyst, at 11 o'clock. And all during that, there are just many minutiae. There are a lot of minutia-related takes to share from that game. It was very easy, at least for yours truly, to write it out with this little thing and that little thing and Madison and Chandler. And, Kevin O.C. and Kevin O'Connell, KOC, and thinking top of the head when he plays the trick card, how well does that thing work? But at the end of the equation, those are the details. And the overarching take is if you don't go -3 in the take give, you do not lose the game. It was said 9 to noon last week, very early in the week and for the course of the week. Just don't go worse than -2 and you can't lose to this team. And I don't care who's playing. It's the same take that I had into the New Orleans Saints game where, the Saints had won a few in a row and they ascended to first place in a bad division. I'm putting in all this time to get ready for the game call. And I left it on like Friday or middle of the day Saturday going, this team sucks. Okay. I'm not, it's Olave and Thomas and all of this stuff. Okay. That's cool, man. DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan seen his better days. Honey Badger seen his better days. I don't care who they've beaten or how many in a row they've won. This compared to what the Minnesota Vikings have seen this year, this team is beatable. And at the end of the equation with this Broncos game, it was the same take. It's just like, yeah, Russell's playing better. Russell's playing more responsibly than he did last year. Sutton is a really, really nice receiver. Surtain is a very high-end corner. Ain't no doubt about that. Kareem Jackson's out here trying to kill people. I mean, Kareem Jackson's running around just looking to spear people and ruin necks. But after that whole thing, I'm like, no, it's the Vikings will win this game unless they go worse than -2, which they did. And that was very unfortunate. TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon? Thank you very much for the set list sponsorship. Mr. Jesse Singh, CEO of AZIC Corporation, the parent company for TimberTech. And TimberTech.com. Much more on Josh Dobbs coming up a little later. Wrote that thing out, and hopefully you enjoy it. Plus, much more heading into the Bears Monday Night Football game a week from today, then the off week, then at Vegas, and a Friday football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Miracle Mile attached to a Planet Hollywood. That's going to be in front of the Vegas game. That's cool, man. Nordo is the master mixer of the Monday Montage. He's also the producer of 9 to noon. He's at the 651 Carpets Plus Studios. And I'm Paul Allen at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, TCOPC, your Egan home for your Minnesota Vikings. TCOPC, the consternation of Purple Covenant. And that's what we feel right now from 6 and 5. You're listening to 9 to noon, and Vikes Bites is next.
The Fan.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for
Vikes Bites.
And that's always presented by Northern Fire Grilling and Barbecue Supply, northernfirebbq.com. It's Turkey Day week. You need that brine, the rubs, the sauces, the accessories, all of that. I know that PA is an expert in ham glazing. Well, you can get all of those supplies.
I'm more of a ham roaster.
At Northern Fire Grilling and Barbecue Supply, just off Shady Oak, north of 62 in Minnetonka, northernfirebbq.com. Vikes Bites! Let's get back to that running back conversation briefly, because I do want to look at it in a vacuum. Let's take the fumble out of it and just look at the running game in general. Alexander Mattison did look as aggressive as he's been all year. 10 total carries, one of those on the fake punt. So even eliminating that fake punt from the mix, they ran for $144 on those Broncos last night. Since Josh Dobbs has come to the team has exceeded well over 100 yards rushing in each of those 3 games. Is there anything, taking the fumble out of it, that we can look positively on moving forward in relation to the ground game that has been much maligned prior to the arrival of Mr. Dobbs?
Well, it's I guess I didn't directly hear as hot as it was with what you're saying with Madison. I got the feel from social media. I got the feel from Fan Line last night. But when I'm big unpacking the layers guy. All right.
Yeah.
And it's if you want Madison to carry the ball fewer times or play fewer snaps, Well, that's under the expectation that the second-year running back from North Carolina can handle that load. So then what's the next the next layer of it is, why hasn't he been playing more in the first place? Okay, well, at that very field in 2015, Stephon Diggs debuted in, I think, week 3, and it was a head-scratcher, and like, where in the hell has that been the first 2 weeks? Holy cow, it was unbelievable. So coaches and decisions don't have to be right every single time. But, with what I watched last night with Alexander and his pass protection, and eventually you're going to be throwing the ball more than Josh Dobbs probably. I mean, Josh has thrown it a lot in his career, but last night was telling with the rush lanes and run blitzes that were taken by Denver for Dobbs. Okay, now when it comes to the running backs running, the state of the running game. I mean, if that's the question, which I believe it is, I'm flabbergasted that Dobbs ran for as few yards as he did. But, I mean, credit goes to the Broncos, man. I mean, of all the quarterbacks they faced this year, Patrick Mahomes got him for 31 yards. I mean, you got Justin Fields in the 20s. You got Josh Allen at 13 yards and a touchdown. They've only given up 1 touchdown this year to all quarterbacks on the ground. So they did a good job with Dobbs. They get to do a good job with certain things, because the interior of the Denver Broncos run defense, I can't remember the last time I saw an interior of a run defense as bad as that one. I mean, if you get bodies on Singleton and Jewell, the whole thing's over. I mean, the whole town blows up. It's like Escape from Denver featuring Snake Plissken. But that was between the tackles. So that was positive to see that. But the state of the running game for a team that wants to be pass first, I'm sorry, but it's still very difficult to answer.
Escape from New York, elite 80s movie, by the way. I appreciate the reference.
Oh, no problem.
Vikes Bites.
Fan line last night was a verbal 50 milligram gummy, metaphorically speaking.
Well, the key is, and it's a good thing Zach Halverson traveled with you, because you can put all of those in his bag as you take the plane ride home. The number that I was getting to, 75, by the way.
Is that a Nordo number?
It's a Nordo number, zonecoverage.com. Thanks to Zone Coverage. They do great jobs keeping up on all of the teams locally, but in particular with the Vikings. I do this Nordo's numbers bit after each and every game at zonecoverage.com. 75, the running backs last night had 75 yards on the ground by the second quarter. The Vikings running backs had only totaled 75 3 other times this entire season. So more productivity among all the negatives. Some productivity on the ground, and I dig that. Vikes Bites, brought to you by Northern Fire. One thing I don't like, PA, Russell Wilson has beaten the Vikings 8 times in his 9 career games. When we were talking about things that frustrate, why this game among so many, losing to Tampa, TJ not closing on that touchdown at the end of the Chargers game, all of those things, 5 losses. This one irritates me more than many, because Russell Wilson has done this to the Vikings many times in his career. And when he was with the Seahawks, it's weird games. It's Frank Clark jumping the long snapper and not getting called. It's weird turnovers in the weirdest of spots. Him rushing for 40 yards, finding DK Metcalf on a 4th and 10. Cam Dantzler, what are you doing? Those sorts of things under the bright lights. And last night, with 1:03 left, he finds Cortland Sutton. You want to talk about missing a Caleb Evans. Russell Wilson had no problem knowing where Mekhi Blackmon was last night, as he went after the 5'10" corner multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson has closed on 8 of his 9 games against the Purple. Jeez. That's a number that just hurts when I think about it.
Right, and Russell, I've liked Russell all of his career, and I've told this quick story several times on KFAN, but I think it was 2012, his rookie year, 12 or 13. Let's go with 12. It's the Vikings were at Seattle, and it was 90 minutes before the game, and I'm chatting with somebody. I think it was Darrell Bevel, their offensive coordinator, and Sidney Rice, the former Viking, is running around the field. And he's running with Russell Wilson. Okay, I'd never seen Russell Wilson. I had no idea how little he was. I thought Sidney was running with a member of the equipment staff, just to keep him motivated to run around the field off the injury. I had no idea. And then Bevel's like, well, that's Russ. I'm like, damn. So then you follow him during his career, and he has been dangerous. He's been a dangerous quarterback. Now, he had 16 touchdowns last year. He has 19 this year, so already more this year than last year. He it's what kind of hit me late in the equation here with Peyton's offense, which is hard to learn, and Flores' defense, which is hard to learn. It's for the Broncos, like the Vikings during the first 2 or 3 games of the season, there were just L's that were taken that no longer are taken. Like deep shots over the top and confusion and mix-ups in communication. So that had some heavyweight battle to it last night, man. And Flores throwing those haymakers and the uppercuts and the jabs. Yeah, just like when Lorenzo Carter recovered the fumble in Georgia and Flores sent your guy, Young Wei Koo backwards, or when Hall on the strip sack on Preston Smith, and then it's a turnover on downs eventually, is Flores' defense, man, when there are mistakes made, seriously, he's like, nah, that ain't happening. So you're not getting into the end zone. So take your field goal. Problem is you lose by 1, and they get 9, 6 maybe they shouldn't have had, and that just makes the whole thing tough to figure out,
It does, and a little mini Vike Bite, a morsel, if you will, brought to you by Northern Fire. You mentioned the deep shots. What's up with the deep game for the purple? And
that's a great question.
Is that an aspect of is that more Dobbs or a lack of Jefferson? Any quick twitch on that?
Yes, I wrote it out a little bit for later in the show because I fully expect, and this is certainly not representing the team when I say this because I don't really know what they're going to do next Monday. I have to believe the big horse leaves the barn in a week. I mean, seriously. Yeah. I think so. You get the big horse out of the barn in Justin Jefferson, and you get that threat, like we've said, with Addison, Hawkinson, and Jefferson, and now that is going to morph into a different version of this quarterback. This is where the rubber meets the road, man. For Dobbs, when Jefferson comes back, and you have Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson specifically off the bye, the passing piece specifically down the field is going to return. The question is, when it returns, do they close on it like Hay 8 with JJ? I mean, because Hay 8 and JJ with that deep stuff, holy cow. So that's the next step of this. And I'm not, I would say it's more so the plan that comes in maximizes the strengths initially of somebody. I don't know how many plays the offense ran last night, but Dobbs had run 137 plays here into last night's game. So let's say 190 he's run so far in totality.
They had another 70 last night, yeah.
Okay, so we're at 207, right. So that's still, that's starting to become a fat number, but it's still not a super big number. And through all of that, you can just tell it's maximize what the guy does well. Like in the Saints game, the Dobbs pass to Addison that was deflected to Addison. Wait, you remember the play?
Oh, yeah.
With all due respect, that's a bad pass.
It's a bad pass.
That's a bad pass. I mean, it had nice touch on it. I mean, good job. Barely got it over the fingertips, but the throwing to where they have 2 and we have 1 is not preferred.
And then last night, he was trying to do the same thing over the middle with Hawkinson. And that one was not intercepted, but it didn't bounce into 87's hands. So the serendipity of that was lost.
I'm watching 87 under center now because very early in the game with the trick. Because O'Connell, after the game in his press conference, he was asked, hey, is a trick play there or something exotic and or different? Is that, what's the purpose of that or whatever? And Kevin respectfully was kind of like, well, I mean, if it works, then, he didn't say it this way, but it's got a little genius side to it if it works. But he was like, it wasn't executed the right way. So I couldn't get my sneaky video last night on the plane, so I just got it this morning, and I can explain that L to you if people haven't watched it back yet, because, man, it was a fat L with Madison.
It was Madison and Darisaw, right?
Yeah, Darisaw, that's who that is. Thank you. Yes, I'm looking at Madison covering up Christian. So you got 271 17s on his guy. And if one guy, one of our favorite guys too, just gets his hands on one guy, that could have been a big ass play. Holy cow!
That's brought to you by Northern Fire Grilling and Barbecue Supply, northernfirebbq.com. Want to hit some text, takes, and talkers next couple of segments, PA?
64686 for the KFAN Bradshaw and O'Brien text line, 64686. And also the free iHeartRadio app. Go ahead and file a 30-second report and opine on the Vikings 1-point loss to the Broncos. It's your reaction to all of the action via the free iHeartRadio app. Text back now. Talk back now. He's Nordo producing it. I'm Paul Allen from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. You're listening to your home for Vikings football, KFAN.
EA on the Fan.
Oh, what a day to be on PA Nordo's therapeutic Davenport of love. Rainy Mondays always get me down after Vikings loss. But all will be fine, because the Bears can't bear down. We shall win. Vikings Nation is just fine. We're going to be okay. Stop. It's still going to be awesome.
Stop.
Elite.
Hey, Nords.
Hey.
On the main page of the button bar, top left.
Yeah.
Have the mouse directed to murmur.
Got you.
Top left, and off that talkback involving the Bears. Hit murmur if it hits you with like, oh wow, that could be problematic, or don't hit murmur and lay on crickets or whatever you want to lay on. If you think I'm overstating this a little bit, ready?
I'm ready.
Off, here come the Bears. Bears ain't no thing. Justin Fields off a 100-yard rushing game on a fast track at U.S. Bank Stadium against a defense with a bunch of primary players who are begging for the bye week scares me.
Oh my God!
See?
Above average at that.
Justin on that fast track, you better be careful.
A little bit. That's the thing with the Bears, though. They have no business winning games. They're future focused and all of that. Justin Fields is focused on where he might be playing next year, what his contract might be looking like. This is a guy in this league right now, at least in the court of public opinion, has a ton to prove. And he looked fast. I mean, he was absolutely racehorse fast in that Lions game, even though they bleeped the whole thing up at the end. But
do you have that in NFL Du Nord?
We'll mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had the Packers and Chargers game in Denver and the Las Vegas Raiders in Miami. So like I'm seeing the score. I got Howard texting me about Bears dropping pick sixes. So, I mean, I'm like following it from a friend in Chicago and just by the crawl or the internet or whatever, how in the hell did Chicago lose that game? Crazy.
Yeah. And, for the Chargers, I mean, feel free to win a game like you should have won yesterday. Yeah. I mean, the Chargers' entire existence is one giant one-score loss. That is all the Chargers are, from Fouts all the way through to Herbert. I can't believe they couldn't pull that off at Lambeau yesterday. Ridiculous. But in the end, I'm spreading misery to others because I feel bad about my team.
I don't know if I texted or told you this, but Sinekin, the head cheese, he's in the mix at 11:47 today.
Yeah.
With Border Battle, and I just put this on Twitter. One of my two Twitter bits that I have is at PA on the mic, MIC, and I put a picture of Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center at 3:45 in the morning as I settled into the Omni Viking Lakes Hotel, and I want to thank them for the really last second situation where they were super accommodating. The hotel's very clean, very comfy. I mean, it's only the third time I've stayed there. I absolutely love that place. And they aided with my stay last night right next to the facility to grab an extra 45 minutes of sleep. And that's really cool that they did that. So thank you, Omni. Love your hotel. It's absolutely beautiful. OmniHotels.com/Viking Lakes if you would like to learn more.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet. Let me hit you with one text and then we'll pause and continue the vibe and the conversation.
I know, right?
This was kind of percolating just a hair last night, but in the vein of what we were talking about earlier this hour, did we jump the gun? Here's a text from Kyle. Did we jump the gun with all the hype behind the past or not? Hall, as in Jaron Hall, can make throws at all three levels, and he's still mobile and has experience in this offense. Can we rule out, PA, a Hall start anytime soon?
Yes. And now when they get to the bye, I mean, that could change things depending on how Josh plays a week from today. But it's with, even with Dobbs, ba-da-da-da-da,
Dobbs.
ba-da-da-da-da.
Dobbs.
Even with all of the Dobbs delirium, nobody ever said he's Joe Montana. Nobody ever said he's going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's sheer delirium. It's sheer lyrium with Josh Dobbs because nobody had ever seen the Atlanta situation, historically speaking. All right, well, that's different, and that was fun. Then in the New Orleans game, 268, a career high, handles it professionally, basically blows the doors off the Saints with his gifts and his skills, but again, not prognosticating a Hall of Fame type career. So it's Josh. And well, maybe we'll get into this around the corner, but or with Bursage. But Dobbs, last night was the newest, biggest professional moment of his career. I mean, there are a series of news coming for Josh Dobbs. All right, when you play with Arizona, that's generally the case, or you're a backup with other teams. But last night was the newest, biggest professional moment of the young man's career, and I thought he did quite well. And I have some I have some reasons to list where reasons that I believe he did quite well.
Overall, I would have to say from career high in yards against the Saints, and then there were moments last night finding T.J. Hawkinson, the patience in the pocket that he had in moments, that long pass to T.J. Tight end, certainly a big part of the passing game last night. Some people, hey, Jordan Addison, his production's kind of falling off. He's had his moments in catches, but the focus last night certainly being on the tight ends. Josh Oliver getting more looks than he really has over his first season in purple. And that's where, again, the in context piece, PA, is, the fumbles, the 3 fumbles. He's got 14 fumbles this season in 11 total games played. He's lost 7 of them. That's awful. And I keep hearing him. He said it 2 or 3 times since he came here. The ball is your dreams and aspirations or something to that effect, so you have to protect it. Well, I got to have you walk that walk, my friend. But overall, for a kid that's, so limited in his reps and his background to be able to put us in a spot to win that game last night, there are certainly many positive things to chew on there. So it's an in-context situation. And now you got me thinking about Justin Fields running for $150 on us. So we got to figure that out.
And 64686 for the text line. We will unfurl some of those texts next segment, play some more talkbacks, walk up to NFL Du Nord. After that, PJ Fleck, coach of the Golden Gophers football team, joins about 45 minutes from now.